Yesterday I went, as we all must, to Peppa Pig World. I don't know if you've been to Peppa Pig World. Who's been to, hands up anybody's been to Peppa Pig World? Not enough.
Will have integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level.
Leaving Partygate and Boris Johnson's leadership behind was Rishi Sunak's pledge as he walked into number 10.
Trust is earned.
This week, a gambling scandal has once again embroiled the party in sleaze allegations. Just 11 days out from an election date insiders are alleged to have bet on.
I've got no reason to believe it's gone any further than what has been reported. But as I say, frustrating though this may be, the party have been given explicit instructions by the Gambling Commission that we should not be discussing this at all.
They may have thought it was an ace up their sleeve. It could prove anything but for these senior Tories. Craig Williams, candidate and close aide to the PM, admitted to a flutter on the election date earlier in June. He denies wrongdoing. Tory campaign manager Tony Lee and his wife, candidate Laura Saunders, are also under investigation by the Gambling Commission. She has vowed to cooperate. And today, the Sunday Times revealed that the Conservatives' data chief, Nick Mason, is also being probed, today denying wrongdoing. He and Tony Lee have taken leave of absence while the other two continue to campaign.
They've instructed us that we should not be discussing it. So I'm going to abide by the Gambling Commission's instructions on that one.
But you must be angry about what's happened.
Well, as I say, from what I've seen, I've got to be very, very careful because, as I say, the Gambling Commission have told us not to discuss it. But people in campaigns should be focusing on the campaigns. They've got jobs to do. They should be focused exclusively on doing those jobs, and candidates should be focused exclusively on serving the people that working with the people that they seek to represent in Parliament. So
now, over in the UK, as if the Tories weren't struggling enough, now they have a betting scandal on their hands. It just puts the cherry on the cake. There's 2 weeks till polling day. Now you've got Nick Mason, who's the Conservatives' chief data officer. He's taken a leave of absence from his role because there's a probe now into his alleged use of privileged information to bet on when the election would be held. Can you believe it?
Do you know who this bookie belongs to?
Look, if you know what's good for you, right, you give me everything you've got.
Another headache to contend with this morning, a secret recording from the BBC of a candidate and MP describing the Rwanda scheme as
crap. Okay? It's crap.
He went on to say,
but it's not about the policy, it's about the effect of the policy.
He told the BBC he was disappointed to have been recorded while being candid about the response to the policy.
As the alleged insider gambling scandal deepens, the Sky News YouGov voters panel reacted. Their verdict, damning.
I'm absolutely disgusted. To maybe not want to vote for Rishi Sunak and dislike him even more because there's no morals there.
This is the final straw. I think it's over. It's unattainable now, and Rishi Sunak should step down, and the Conservative Party has to start all over again.
For dyed-in-the-wool Tories, it probably won't make a lot of difference, but I think for people who might be wavering, it might sway them towards Labour or worst-case scenario reform.
Even without the betting probe, the polls weren't looking positive for the Tories. These are the 2019 constituencies our voters panel represent. And this is what the latest Sky News YouGov poll predicts will happen. It suggests 22 of the 40 seats could change hands, the majority flipping from Conservative to Labour. Voters in these seats aren't surprised.
Most people in the area are expressing a change from Conservative because they've made such a mess of things.
I am surprised at the how radical it is and how it's predicted they're going to take so many seats from the Conservatives.
This makes me inclined to even more vote for reform for the opposition to the Labour, because I really don't want Labour to get in.
The poll also predicts Tory losses to the Lib Dems.
I think just with the way that the national sentiment is, I think that people here are likely and inclined to vote Lib Dem rather than Conservative. I'm still undecided personally, and I'm still waiting to really make my mind up.
Even in true blue seats staying Conservative, some of our panel unimpressed and undecided.
I think the options really do range from completely incompetent through to downright deluded. And so I still haven't made up my mind. And to be honest, I really would like a none of the above option.
Polls can predict, but it's people who decide. And that day's still 2 weeks away.
Fish, what are you doing up there? What does it look like I'm doing up here? This is starting to hurt, Solomon!
Drop the screen now. How you doing, Vince?
I'll be doing a lot better. You stop using my name.
Dressed for matrimony, a break from a campaign that's lacked harmony. The Prime Minister got to do something today which has evaded him for most of the election. Look Prime Ministerial. The occasion, the state visit of the Japanese Emperor. A happy distraction from a disastrous election campaign and what many in the Conservatives now consider an inevitable, unceremonious divorce from the nation.
I committed an error of judgment, not an offence, and I want to reiterate my apology directly to you.
But it was an error of judgment for which Craig Williams has now lost Conservative Party support for this election.
Hi, my name's Laura Saunders.
As too has their candidate for Bristol North West, both been investigated by the Gambling Commission for allegedly betting on the timing of the election.
So the party did take the time to look at these allegations properly, consult with the Gambling Commission to make sure this action doesn't prejudice what the Gambling Commission is doing. It did take, 5 or 6 days to do that, but now that's been done, decisive action has been taken and they're no longer supported by the Conservative Party.
When Rishi Sunak marched out into the rain to call the election on May 22nd, unbeknown to him, as he got wetter and wetter, the seeds of this scandal were planted 3 days earlier when his own parliamentary private secretary, Craig Williams, walked into a local betting shop and placed a bet on there being a July election. Then, 3 weeks later, the party still recovering from the Prime Minister's decision to leave D-Day commemorations early, the news of Craig Williams' bet breaks. A week later, one of the Prime Minister's close protection officers was arrested for allegedly also placing a bet. On June 20th, it was revealed the Gambling Commission was investigating Laura Saunders, candidate for Bristol North West. Later that day, her husband, Tory Director of Campaigning, Tony Lee, took leave of absence and is also being looked into by the betting industry regulator. 2 days ago, the fourth Conservative Chief Data Officer, Nick Mason, investigated for alleged betting. Then today, the Met Police announced another 5 officers investigated by the Gambling Commission for alleged bets. And 2 weeks after the story first broke, the Conservatives finally withdrew support for their 2 candidates.
Why on earth didn't they do this on day one? It beggars belief that it took this long. I think the next thing we need a bit of clarity on is if any of them are elected, are they going to have the whip? So no, I don't think they've gone quite far enough. I think it's taken far too long and they haven't said what's going to happen next.
On the ground in Bristol North West, exasperation, regardless of who you vote for.
It feels a bit like some of the unconservative party members are trying to destroy their party altogether, which makes you wonder a bit just how conservative some of them really are. I find the whole thing really quite sad.
One damn thing after another. I think Rishi's very clever. I know people don't admire him, and I think he's made some mistakes, but I think he's good. But the rest of them are a load of horrors.
I think people who are still lingering Tories have that kind of faith to the end, but I think everybody has long since jumped off that ship and gone to somewhere else by this point.
This candidate should be suspended, and it's very telling that Rishi Sunak has not already done that. If it was one of my candidates, they'd be gone and their feet would not have touched the floor. There's a wider point here that you touch on, which is we've now had 14 years of chaos, of division, of politics being about self-entitlement. And politics needs to be about service, about public service. And that is one of the choices now going into this election. More of this, or turn the page, rebuild the country and return politics to service. And that's what I will do as Labour leader.
Regrettable that it appears that there are now 2 parliamentary candidates who have bet on the date of the election. That's unacceptable behaviour. People shouldn't be using, if the allegations are correct, privileged inside information in this way. But I think it's important to recognise that an investigation is ongoing, and so I can't say anything conclusive until that investigation is ongoing. But I think we're talking here about 2 individuals rather than anything more widespread.
Okay, have you suspended the candidates being investigated? Has the party? And if not, why not?
My understanding is that there's an investigation ongoing in both cases. The Gambling Commission is looking at this, but there's been no formal arrest or charge, so far as I know, and unless and until there is, then it's obviously right that people should enjoy the benefit of whatever doubt there is.
Do you recognise it's a problem for the party if people are allowed to carry on campaigning when they are under investigation over this, that it's damaging?
Well, obviously, it's a very far from ideal situation when you've got people who've acknowledged that they've behaved in this way. It's deeply regrettable, but while there's a process going on, an investigation going on, I can't say anything definitive. I can tell you how unhappy I am, and I know that there are lots of candidates out there who are deeply unhappy at this, and of course there'll be members of the public who will be, looking on with a mixture of surprise and consternation. But there's a process, and we've got to allow that process to conclude.
A Tory attack ad aimed at Labour, but now deleted from social media amid a scandal over Conservatives placing bets on the timing of the general election. Laura Saunders is the second Tory candidate to be investigated over money allegedly being wagered shortly before the Prime Minister called the vote. She's said she'll cooperate with the Gambling Commission inquiry. Her husband, Tony Lee, has also taken a leave of absence from his job as the Conservative Director of Campaigns. For ministers trying to construct a comeback 2 weeks from polling day, it's an extraordinary development.
Well, I'm almost lost for words, I have to say. Obviously, I've got to wait for these investigations. We've all got to wait for these investigations to conclude. But I think you shouldn't be using inside information to try to make a few £100 on the side. That is just not acceptable.
All quiet at Tory HQ, but if anyone was found to have used confidential inside information to make bets, they could be found criminally liable.
Fill that back.
All bets are off.
I am not in here to make a fucking bet.
Appreciated, but all bets are off. If all bets are off, then there can't be any money, can there?
I ain't fucking buying that.
Well, that's handy, because I ain't fucking selling it. It's a fact.
Hi, my name's Laura Saunders and I'm the Conservative Party candidate for Bristol North West.
She's also being investigated by the Gambling Commission for allegedly betting on the timing of the election. Her husband is now also being investigated because until yesterday, when he took a leave of absence, Tony Lee was the Conservative Director of Campaigning.
On the 4th of July, vote Laura Saunders, Conservative Party candidate for Bristol North West.
But when did she know the election was going to be in July? The Gambling Commission and Conservative Party said they would not comment on ongoing investigations, but in a statement today, Ms Saunders said she, quote, will be cooperating with the Gambling Commission. Laura Saunders is now the third person to be investigated over alleged bets on the timing of the election, and the third with a link to the Prime Minister, who himself is not implicated in any wrongdoing. Laura's husband, Tony Lee, was, until yesterday, the Conservative Party's Director of Campaigning. The first was Craig Williams, Rishi Sunak's Parliamentary Private Secretary, who placed a bet on a July election 3 days before it was announced, something he's since called a huge error of judgment. And yesterday, one of Rishi Sunak's close protection officers was arrested and suspended over alleged bets.
Again, I'm not equipped to judge because...
Yes, you are perfectly equipped.
We haven't come to the end of it.
OK, well, is this the worst first month of a general election campaign since you've been an MP?
Well, I'm a participant and not a commentator. Once the election campaign has concluded, all of us can form a judgment. But, let's wait until the final moment. Let's wait until the whistle blows.
Now, you're probably thinking I look a bit too jolly for somebody whose party's about to get beaten like an egg. than one of Nigella's meringues. But no, I'm feeling all right because I think I'm about to come into quite a lot of money because I put a bet on. Not on the date of the election. That'd be ridiculous. Amateur hour stuff, far too easy to get caught. No, what I did was on the day after the 2019 election, when Boris was basking in his 80-seat majority like a walrus in the sun, I checked out what the odds would be on Labour winning a majority of over 100 at the next election. And let me tell you, those odds were very high. Higher than my blood pressure gets when I have to listen to Angela Rayner. So, you know, put a bit of a bet on, didn't I? I made a moderate wager. I was simply hedging, if you will. It was win-win, wasn't it? You know, either the government would make a great success of Brexit and all the rest, and we'd all profit, or it would be a total shambles, but at least I would, you know? Yeah, you have to remember, I thought my money was pretty safe. I know these people. And yes, I've given them a little bit of a helping hand every so often. You know, who do you think it was who leaked the first photos from Partygate? Who was it who suggested to Rishi he should come home early from D-Day? Who was it who told Liz to... Well, nothing, really. I mean, she was very, very happy to make a mess on her own. I didn't have to do anything. It's actually been almost too easy. I'm almost embarrassed at how easy it's been and how much money I'm going to make as a result. Almost. So, all I have to do now is keep my head down till July the 5th. Bob's your uncle, I'll be laughing all the way to the bank, which I'll probably be able to afford to buy. Hang on, is that a camera?
What have you got?
Nothing really. A few coins, but no notes.
A grilling for all leaders last night at the debate, but if he was a betting man, the Prime Minister could have put his money on being asked this.
Aren't these emerging allegations about betting on the election date the absolute epitome of the lack of ethics that we have had to tolerate from the Conservative Party for years and years?
Well, like you, I was incredibly angry.
The Right Honourable Rishi Sunak.
Today, as he launched the Tories' Welsh manifesto, hoping to talk about reversing the 20-mile-an-hour limit or attacking Labour's record here, questions angled closer to home.
Are you confident none of your cabinet members have also placed a bet?
I was incredibly angry when I learned about these allegations, in the same anger that many of you will feel and everyone watching. And it's right that they are investigated thoroughly. These are serious allegations.
Natasha Clark has dashed, I think we can say, sprinted into the studio with a look on her face that to me says story breaking.
Breaking news, James, just in, the Conservatives have pulled their support for Craig Williams and Laura Saunders over that gambling scandal, essentially, that is engulfing the Conservative Party and starting to dominating now this final weeks of this election campaign. Conservative spokesperson has just told me, as a result of ongoing internal inquiries, we have concluded that we can no longer support Craig Williams or Laura Saunders as parliamentary candidates at the forthcoming general election. They say, we've checked with the Gambling Commission. This decision does not compromise the investigation that they are conducting, which is rightly independent and ongoing. So days after we got that first Guardian report into Craig Williams, the former aide to the Prime Minister, former Conservative MP, standing again to be re-elected at the next general election. The Conservatives have so far refused to suspend these two candidates, saying essentially that this ongoing investigation means that they can't do so. It seems today that obviously we know there's a rival Tory investigation within the party ongoing into these two, and it sounds like as a result of what they have figured out and find out from their own investigations, they believe that that is enough for them to be pulled their support. So that means no Conservatives will be campaigning for them. However, it does, because it is too late to pull them off the ballot paper, mean that their names will still be on that ballot paper on July the 4th.
Confusing, perhaps, for some voters.
There is a problem, and I think the problem comes from leadership. And I think we've gone through a period when the top leadership of the party has not sent strong enough signals about the requirement to comply with basic codes of ethics. I mean, people in politics, people in public life have to know instinctively what is right and what is wrong. And knowing that you can't place a bet on an election, the date of of which you're partly privy to setting, is sort of ABC 1, 2, 3. Everybody should know and understand that. But we've been through a period a couple of years ago when there was a very corrosive mood around ethics and rules in politics, and a sense that no rules applied. And I think that's deeply damaging, and the sooner we can sweep that ethic away and get people focused back on what I would call a traditional approach, a public service approach to holding public office, the better.
So would you draw the same parallel that Michael Gove has drawn between Partygate and, as it's now being known, Gamblegate?
Yes, I think that's right. I think that's when the rot set in.
Copper coins. What do you mean? Copper fucking coins!
This calls for a celebration! That's it!
Bonjour, camarade. I am Cantona. You may know me for being the UK's greatest importer of all time, and for my films. Of course. After 2 years of madness, Brexit is heading into fairy time. So, who knows when Britain will finally kung fu kick Europe in the chest and say au revoir. Yes, mes amis, Brexit is finally upon us, even if nobody understands it. But let's not blame Theresa May. Managing Brexit is like marking the king. Impossible. The B word is everywhere.
Brexit.
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 Brexit. Oh, sorry. Just another strange text from Jacob Rees-Mogg. Brexit, it's like Boris Johnson's hair. He's the only one who doesn't think it's a complete disaster. It's why you, my dear British chums, must hope for the best and prepare for the worst. I am in a secret location in the middle of the sea between England and Europe, where I have created the Brexit bunker. A British Noah's Ark. Here, one specially selected Brit can take shelter from the constant bombardment of Brexit chatter, thanks to Cantona and petty power. This fortified structure is tougher than steel Bruce and built to withstand even the stupidest political crisis. The bunker is fully equipped with all the basic necessities and supplies to please even the most discerning Brit. And while you are isolated from the outside world, you still have access to the news. Just the good bits. Sports broadcasts, the latest from Corey, keeping you as happy as David Cameron with a pig. It's the end of Europe, what we know. And best of all, not a single mention of the word Brexit. If you believe you should be the chosen one, apply now. Who knows? And like the EU, you might make it out of this thing in one piece.
Appreciated, but all bets are off. Well, that's handy, because I ain't fucking selling it. It's a fact.